Hello children, how are you? I hope you all are doing well. So children, isn't grammar fun? Isn't English literature fun? Hasn't it improved your vocabulary? Isn't it giving you a lot of life lessons? So children, that's the fun of English. We get to know about so many things through different stories and narratives and biographies and all. So children, let's see what this story is about. The name of this chapter is The Last Lesson. Let's see what are we going to learn through this story. The prologue says, this story is set in the French province of Alsace. It is 1870 and the Franco-Prussian War, fought between the French and the Prussians, that is Germans, has just ended with an immense German victory. The state schools in France have been taken over by the German authorities and German has become the medium of instruction. But the French people do not accept the German rule and continue to see themselves as French. In the following story, a young boy named Franz is on his way to school. He has no idea about his life, which is about to change forever. So, let's see this story which is set in the French province called Alsace. Okay? और यहाँ पे जो war हो रही थी, Franco-Prussian war हुई थी. Okay? जहाँ पे German won this war. Okay, this war was between France and German. Okay, the French and the German, which was won by the Germans. Okay, and now उन्होंने बोला है कि जो medium of education होगा, okay, या instructions होगा स्कूल में, वो होगा German language and not French. So now let's look at this story. Okay. About a young boy called Franz और उसका life कैसे change होने वाला है after going to school. Okay, now let's do a warm-up. How is mother tongue important to a person? Discuss. So बच्चों, आपकी भी मदर टंग होगी, आप भी कोई भी अपने घर में अलग लैंग्वेज में बात करते होंगे. जैसे इंग्लिश इज़ अ मोड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन basically from a schooling point of view or maybe from a business point of view. But अगर आप आपके घर में भी एक लैंग्वेज होगी जो आप हमेशा अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ बोलते होंगे जिसमें जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल हिंदी. So that becomes your mother tongue. Alright, so talk about the importance of mother tongue, okay, and discuss about it. Now let's read this story. I was very late for school that morning and I was afraid of being scolded, especially as Monsieur Hamel had told us that he should examine us on participles and I did not know the first thing about them. For a moment I thought of staying away from school. It was such a warm, lovely day. I could hear blackbirds whistling and in the field behind the sawmill, the Prussians going through their drill. So this boy is scared to go to school because उसको एक assignment मिली थी about participles, okay, and he was not sure about it. He had not prepared well. तो उसने सोचा था कि मैं school miss कर दूँगा. So as he is going to school, but these were the thoughts that he had in his mind. As I passed the mayor's office, I saw that there were people gathered about the little board on which notices were posted. For 2 years, all our bad news had come from that board. Battles lost, conscriptions, and I thought without stopping, what can it be now? तो एक बोर्ड लगा था वहाँ पे मेयर के ऑफिस के बाहर जिस पे जनरली 2 साल जब तक वो वॉर चला हर बैड न्यूज़ एवरी न्यूज़ यूज्ड टू बी इन दैट ऑन दैट बोर्ड. सो ये बच्चा जैसे ही वहाँ से पास करता है वो वही सोचता है कि अब कौन सी बैड न्यूज़ मिलने वाली है. ओके, नाउ व्हाट इज़ इन स्टोर फॉर अस ओवर हियर. देन एज आई रैन अक्रॉस द स्क्वायर, वॉचर द ब्लैकस्मिथ हु स्टूड देयर रीडिंग द बोर्ड कॉल्ड आउट टू मी. Don't hurry so, my boy, you will get to your school soon enough. I thought that he was making fun of me and I ran into Monsieur Hamel's little yard all out of breath. Usually at the beginning of school, there was a great uproar which could be heard in the street, desks opening and closing, lessons repeated aloud in unison and the teacher's stout ruler beating on the desk. तो जैसे वो भाग रहा होता है तब उसको जो वॉचर करके जो ब्लैकस्मिथ है वो उसको आवाज़ लगा के कहते हैं कि कोई बात नहीं बच्चे, मतलब यू डोंट हैव टू हरी, यू विल गेट टू स्कूल सून, तुम बहुत जल्दी ही स्कूल पहुंच जाओगे. सो उसको लगा कि मजाक उड़ा रहे. जब वो मॉन्सियर हैमिल्स के यहाँ पे पहुँचता है, उनके छोटे यार्ड में पहुँचता है, तो जनरली वहाँ पे जो माहौल रहता है हमेशा वो होता है कि बच्चों का शोर होता है वहाँ पे, डेस्क की आवाज़, डेस्क ओपनिंग क्लोजिंग की आवाज़ आती है, और चिल्ड्रन आर टॉकिंग और रीडिंग आउट लेसन्स टुगेदर, एंड जो टीचर की ऐसे रूलर डेस्क पे मारने की आवाज़ सुनाई देती है. सो दैट इज़ वॉट ही जनरली हियर्स. I had counted on all this noise to reach my bench unnoticed, but that day, as it happened, everything was quiet. Through the open window, I saw my comrades already in their places and Monsieur Hamel walking back and forth with the terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to enter in the midst of that perfect silence, filled with both shame and fear. But उस दिन जब ये स्कूल पहुंचा तो सब कुछ शांत था, सन्नाटा था वहाँ पे. और वो जब वो एक खुली सी विंडो से झांक के देखता है तो देखता है जो मॉन्सियर हैमल होते हैं वो वॉक कर रहे हैं, उनके पास एक आयरन की रूलर होती है. ओके, एंड देन he says that I have to walk with shame and fear in that perfect silence. Okay, but Monsieur Hamel, who looked at me with no sign of anger, said very gently, "Go at once to your seat, my little Franz. We were going to begin without you." तो उसको जाके बैठने के, उसको लगता है कि गुस्से में होंगे, पर वो गुस्से में नहीं होते, वो उसको प्यार से कहते हैं कि जाके बैठ जाओ, हम तुम्हारे बिना ही शुरू करने वाले थे, बट नाउ दैट यू कम, गो एंड सिट. I stepped over to the bench and sat down at my desk. When I had partly recovered from my fright, I noticed that our teacher had on a handsome coat. His plaited ruff and the black embroidered breeches which he wore on days of inspection or of distribution of prizes. Moreover, there was something extraordinary, something solemn about the whole class. तो वो जाके वहाँ पे बैठ जाते तो उसको कुछ अलग ही नोटिस करता है, जैसे कि जो हैंडसम कोट, मतलब ही नोटिस कि जो उनके टीचर है उन्होंने एक अच्छा सा कोट पहना है जो जनरली स्कूल इंस्पेक्शन के वक्त वो पहनते हैं, और उनको क्लास में कुछ तो अजीब सा लग रहा था. But what surprised me most was at the back of the room some men from the village sitting as silent as we were. Old Hauser, the ex-mayor, the ex-postman and others. Besides, they all seemed depressed, and Hauser had brought an old spelling book with gnawed edges, which he held wide open on his knee. So, फिर वो पीछे रूम के पीछे देखता है तो वहाँ पे जो गांव के कुछ लोग बैठे हैं, जैसे ओल्ड हॉजर बैठा है, फिर एक्स मेयर बैठे हैं और पोस्टमैन बैठे हैं और बहुत से लोग बैठे हैं जिनके पास एक पुरानी स्पेलिंग की बुक है जिसको जो कुतर दिया होगा चूहों ने, वैसे वाली बुक थी उनके पास. ओके, व्हाइल आई वाज वंडरिंग एट ऑल दिस, मॉन्सियर Hamel said to us in the same gentle and serious voice with which he had welcomed us, "My children, this is the last time that I shall teach you. Orders have come from Berlin to teach nothing but German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new teacher arrives tomorrow. This is the last class in French, so I beg you to be very attentive." Those few words overwhelmed me. Ah, the villains! That was what they had posted at the mayor's office. So, फिर उसके बाद जो मॉन्सियर हैमल होते हैं वो बच्चों को कहते हैं कि ये आज हमारी आखिरी क्लास है फ्रेंच में, क्योंकि बर्लिन से ऑर्डर आई है, दैट्स द बर्लिन इज़ अ प्लेस इन जर्मनी, वहाँ से ऑर्डर आई है कि कल से सिर्फ जर्मनी में, जर्मन लैंग्वेज में आपकी पढ़ाई होगी और आपके नए टीचर जो है वो कल से आएंगे. सो तब इसको रियलाइज़ होता है, फ्रांस को रियलाइज़ होता है कि अच्छा तो ये नोटिस थी नोटिस बोर्ड पे. ऑलराइट, सो चिल्ड्रन क्विकली लेट्स ट्रैक योर परफॉर्मेंस थ्रू दिस माई परफॉर्मेंस ट्रैकर. ऑलराइट, नाउ लेट्स मूव अहेड. माई लास्ट क्लास इन फ्रेंच and I barely knew how to write, so I should never learn. How angry I was with myself because of the time I had wasted, the lessons I had missed, looking for nests or sliding on the sour. My books, which only a moment before I thought so tiresome, so heavy to carry, my grammar, my sacred histories seemed to me now like old friends, from whom I should be terribly grieved to part. And it was same about Monsieur Hamel. The thought that he was going away, that I should never see him again made me forget the punishments, the blows with the ruler. Now this child जो है, ये फ्रांस जो है, he is wondering, मतलब उसको रियलाइज़ होता है कि ये मैंने, मतलब ये मेरी लास्ट क्लास है फ्रेंच में, तो मैंने जो इतने सारे लेसन्स क्यों मिस किए, वाई डिड आई मिस सो मेनी लेसन्स, आई मिस्ड आउट ऑन सो मेनी ब्यूटिफुल थिंग्स, यू नो, उसको रियलाइज़ होता है. एंड नाउ ही इज़ फीलिंग सो सैड, ओके, ही इज़ फीलिंग रियली बैड एंड ग्रीव्ड, okay, that I have missed out on so many things just to look at the nature's beauty and all. You know, I should have come to school. He starts getting that feeling of regret, okay, and now he is also upset that he's going to be missing Monsieur Hamel, okay. तो उस मोमेंट पे हम सब चीज़ें भूल जाते, ओके, जो भी हमारे साथ बुरा हुआ हो, जो भी है, हम सब भूल जाते हैं, हम रिग्रेट करना शुरू कर देते और लगता है कि यार क्यों, why is this ending? Poor man, it was in honor of that last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes, and I understand now why those old people from the village were sitting at the end of the room. It seemed to me that they regretted not having come often to the school. It was also a way of thanking our teacher for his 40 years of faithful service and of paying their respects to the fatherland which was vanishing. So, अब इसको रियलाइज़ होता है कि इसकी वजह से ये गांव के लोग भी यहाँ पे आके बैठे, और इसकी वजह से आज ये हमारे जो टीचर हैं इतने अच्छे कपड़े पहन के आए, जो जनरली संडेज़ को पहनते हैं when he goes to the goes out with his family or to the church and all, and today he's come in those fine clothes, okay, because it's his last day at school and he has served the school for 40 साल से वो वहाँ पे बच्चों को पढ़ा रहे, and he's been so faithful towards the school. I was at that point in my reflections when I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What would I not have given to be able to say that famous rule about participles in a loud, distinct voice, without a slip? But I got mixed up at the first words, and I stood there with a full heart, afraid to raise my head. Okay, so अब उसको फिर रियलाइज़ होता है, क्योंकि ये तो सोच रहा होता है, एंड सडनली उसका नाम बुलाते हैं, सो ही रियलाइजेस दैट ओ माई गॉड, मतलब इट्स हिज टर्न टू स्टार्ट रीडिंग और रिसाइटिंग द पार्टिसिपल्स, ओके, जो उसको लगता है कि मैं आई कुड डू इट, बट देन ही गेट्स ऑल मिक्सड अप, ओके. आई हर्ड मॉन्सियर हैमिल स्पीकिंग टू मी. I won't scold you, my little Franz. You must be punished enough. That's the way it goes every day, we say to ourselves. Sure, I have time. I'll learn tomorrow, and then you see what happens. What? You claim to be French, and you can neither speak nor write your language? In all this, my poor Franz, you are not the guiltiest one. So, he's like, the professor says that the teacher tells him that, Franz, you must be punished enough, okay? So I'm not going to punish you or scold you anymore, okay? What you claim to be French, why do you claim to be French when you are not able to speak or write, okay, your language? So he is not the only guilty one. Your parents haven't been careful enough to see that you are well educated, okay, you were educated. They preferred to send you to work in the fields or in the factories in order to have a few more sous. And I have nothing to reproach myself for. Have I not often made you water my garden instead of studying? So now this teacher is also feeling guilty कि इन बच्चों को French में पढ़ना लिखना नहीं आ रहा है, because to some extent it is the parents' fault कि वो बच्चों को instead of sending them to school, they were sending them to the fields to work. At the same time, इस टीचर को भी रिग्रेट है कि इसको पढ़ाने के बदले मैं इसको बोलता था मेरे गार्डन में जाके पौधों में पानी डाल के आ. Okay? Then passing from one thing to another, Monsieur Hamel began to talk to us about the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world, that we must always retain it among ourselves and never forget it, because when people fall into servitude, so long as it clings to its language, it is as if it held the key to its prison. So then उनको वो फिर अपने लैंग्वेज के बारे में बोलना शुरू होते, ऑब्वियसली बिकॉज अभी वहाँ पे फ्रेंच बंद होके चिल्ड्रन वर गोइंग टू गेट एजुकेटेड इन जर्मन, ओके. तो वो बताते कि हाउ लैंग्वेज इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट. दिस टीचर इज़ ट्राइंग टू टेल देम कि लैंग्वेज इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड यू शुड नेवर फॉरगेट इट. आप अपनी लैंग्वेज कभी भी भूलना नहीं चाहिए. यू मस्ट continue to retain your language and speak in it, okay, and keep learning your language, okay. और हम generally जब काम करने लगते हैं हम भूल जाते हैं, but you should never do that compromise with your language. When the lesson was at an end, we passed to writing. For that day, Monsieur Hamel had prepared some entirely new cards with examples on which was written France, Alsace, France, Alsace. They were like little flags waving all about the class. You should have seen how hard we all worked and how silent it was. On the roof of the schoolhouse, pigeons cooed in low tones, and I said to myself as I listened to them, I wonder if they are going to compel them to sing in the German too. From time to time, when I raised my eyes from my paper, I saw Monsieur Hamel sitting in his chair and staring at the objects about him. For 40 years, he had been there in the same place with his class just as it was. What a heart-rending thing it must have been for him to leave all those things, indeed, to leave the province forever. So, जैसे क्लास ख़त्म होती है, towards the end of the class, Monsieur Hamel जो होते हैं वो पूरे क्लास में नए कार्ड्स पास ऑन करते हैं. They were like flags जिस पे लिखा था France Alsace. ओके, छोटे छोटे फ्लैग्स जैसे थे. और फिर वो बच्चा वही सोचता है कि क्या जो पिजन्स बैठे हैं उनको भी जर्मन में कू करने को बताएंगे उनको, यू नो, आर दे गोइंग टू मेक देम सिंग इन जर्मन लैंग्वेज टू. ओके, और फिर बार बार उसकी नज़र जाती है मॉन्सियर हैमल पे जो अपनी चीज़ों को देख रहे थे. 40 साल से जो चीज़ें उन्होंने संभाल के रखी है. Okay, he has to part away from them. At the same time, he has to leave his province forever. Okay. However, he had the courage to keep the class to the end. After the writing, we had the lesson in history. Then the little ones sang all together the ba bee bee bo boo. At the back of the room, old Hauser, holding his spelling book in both hands, spelled out the letters with them. His voice shook with emotion, and it was funny to hear him, that we all longed to laugh and to cry. Ah, I shall remember that last class. Suddenly, the church clock struck 12. The bugles of the Prussians blared under half windows. Monsieur Hamel rose, pale as death, from his chair. Never had he seemed to me so tall. My friends, he said, my friends, but he could not finish the sentence. Thereupon, he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and he wrote in the largest letters he could, Viva la France. Then he stood there with his head resting against the wall, and without speaking, he motioned to us with his hand, that is all, go. So, you know, this is a very emotional thing when it is going to be the last day, okay, of your class. It's not only an emotional thing for the children, but it is more emotional for the teachers, especially जब वो अपना heart and soul उस school को देते हैं, बच्चों को देते हैं, उनको पढ़ाने के लिए देते हैं. So this child, okay, was watching every minutest thing that was happening with his teacher. ओके, जहाँ पे जैसे ही 12 बजते हैं क्लॉक में, द ब्यूगल्स, प्रशियंस के जो ब्यूगल्स होते हैं वो बजना शुरू हो जाते हैं. और तब मॉन्सियर हैमल को लगता है कि यस, दैट्स इट, एंड ही इज़ सो डल. ओके, ही हैज़ लॉस्ट हिज लाफ्टर, ही इज़ फीलिंग सो सैड. ओके, एंड देन ही सेज दैट दिस इज़ द टाइम. ओके, एंड ही टेल्स द स्टूडेंट्स टू लीव. सो चिल्ड्रन, this is the way life is, you know. Sometimes we have to part away with things unwillingly, but we must always cherish the memories that we have and live with them. So children, reread this beautiful chapter and learn the difficult words, the meanings of the difficult words, and also don't forget to do the back exercises.